And the first thing you do, I know what my wife does. She opens up that silverware and sees it's clean. No, we don't want to eat with those forks and plates and stuff. There's germs. Well, let me tell you something. We don't want to be in that same position that we try to look like a pretty plate and be lost. Because there's people right now that's believing on God. They say they love the Lord. Oh, it's all this and that and the other. And they're going to go to hell. Because their belief was not given to them like it should have. Think about that. What happened when we got saved? We went to the altar. I was convicted of my sins. So Jesus spoke plainly about the Pharisees' sin, yet he didn't stop there and leave the Pharisee condemned. Jesus compassionately pointed to the solution for his sin. You know, Jesus commanded the Pharisee to give from the heart. A heart that was supposed to be right with God. When the heart is right with God, it can make all things clean. The inside and the outside. You know, sin is what separates and keeps a person far from God. Consequently, sin has to be dealt with properly before a person can have a right relationship with Him. Like Jesus, we should speak plainly and compassionately about sin, but we should also be quick to point to the hope found in Jesus Christ. You know, we should speak passionately about sin, but we should not never leave everybody out there just on the sin. We got to show them a way, and we need to show them and let them know and point them to the hope that is only found in Jesus Christ. We got to show them the way, y'all. That's our call. To go out and tell somebody what God has done for you. You know, and that's the greatest witness you ever have. And as long as I teach Sunday school lesson, I'm going to press that. That you're going to hear it and you're going to be sick of it. We need to go out. We need to do that. Yes, we do. We all do. We got a brand new day tomorrow. We got a brand new opportunity tomorrow. And if that don't fall in, guess what? You got one coming Tuesday. And you got one coming Wednesday. Don't get caught up and not getting something done on a Monday and getting out and witness. Something might come up and you can't get in there. Don't let that say, well, I'm done. I can't do it. No, you got a Tuesday and a Wednesday and a Thursday. You got a telephone. Everybody's got one of these iPhones where you can text, send pictures, FaceTime. You know, let me tell you something. They say that you can't receive God without being in the house. But I'm going to tell you something. FaceTime them. FaceTime them. You can touch people's hearts when you're looking at them. When they're not looking at you, they can blow it off. But when you got them eye to eye, you can talk to them. All right. Okay, next page. Luke 11:42-46. It says, "But woe unto you, Pharisees, for ye tithe mint and rue and all manner of herbs, and pass over judgment and the love of God. These ought ye to have done, and not to leave the other undone. Woe unto you, Pharisees, for ye love the uppermost seats in the synagogues, and greetings in the markets. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For ye are as graves which appear not, and the men that walk over them are not aware of them. Then answered one of the lawyers, and said unto him, Master, thus sayest thou, reproachest us also. And he said, Woe unto you also, ye lawyers, for ye lad men with burdens grievous to be borne, and ye yourself touch not the burdens with one of your fingers." You know, the inevitable outcome of practicing legalism is hypocrisy. Hypocrisy. He said, what should surprise and alarm us all are the choices the Pharisees made in their effort to obey the written and oral laws. They emphasized obedience to the lightweight issues and disregarded obedience to the weighty ones. You know, Jesus pointed out the Pharisees' hypocrisy use an example of their religious practice of tithing. Tithing is biblical. On top of that, Jesus declared that they showed little or no regard for important matters like justice and love for God. When you put these two things together, it produces hypocrisy with serious consequences. You know, as religious leaders, the Pharisees bore the responsibility of guiding God's people to be faithful to the covenant God established with them. Two big aspects of that covenant are love for God and justice. Generally speaking, the Ten Commandments could be divided in two categories: our relationship with God and our relationship with others. You know, instead of guiding God's people into a deeper relationship with God, the Pharisees reduced the covenant by empty ritual. You know, by neglecting justice and love for God, the Pharisees led people away from God. Instead of bringing them in, they led them away. Nobody wanted to deal with them. Here come the Pharisees. Oh, them lawyers, they're going to tell us about all them 613 laws. And they're going to tell me how many I broke. Because they know the law. Don't think they don't know the law. They don't know the law. They might not know Jesus, but they know the law. And you'll find people today that try to contradict everything. Well, that's not the way you get saved. Oh, no. It's like a Catholic tell me that. My Catholic buddy said, man, there ain't going to be no rapture. I said, boy, there's going to be some rapture here. No, there ain't. I said, well, you keep hanging on that. You keep hanging on that. And when you hear me go, and other people go, then you can holler, well, there was a rapture. But you need to pay attention. He believes there ain't going to be a rapture. Bible says there's going to be a rapture. Bible says he's coming back to get us. Now, what do you believe? I ain't going to believe a Catholic man tell me there ain't going to be no rapture. Because he ain't reading that same book I am. Let me tell you something. Why would the Pharisees choose religious practice instead of ministering to God's people? Why? It was because one reason. The reason was pride. They had pride in their heart. The Pharisees loved themselves more than God's people. It was all about them. Their pride caused them to turn their services inward in order to benefit themselves instead of others. Jesus spoke plainly of the effect the Pharisees' sin had on themselves and God's people by comparing them to unmarked graves. Let me start right there. Here's something. When I was growing up, I don't know if any of y'all ever heard this. When I was growing up and we went to a funeral and Mama and Daddy was there, the first thing he said, don't walk over that grave. Yeah. No, you walk around that grave. Well, there's another one right here. Well, you better walk between them. But don't you step on that grave. Huh? Everybody done that, huh? That's what we're talking. Don't walk on that grave. You know, the comparison is rooted in the clean and unclean laws. You know, which states that contact with a dead body would render a person unclean. We ain't having no contact with that person. If you think about it, the body's in the ground. It's usually in a casket, in a vault with a lot of dirt. You're not making contact, but you don't walk on any graves. You know, it says the unclean, which state contact with a dead body would render a person unclean. Knowingly walking over a grave was avoided for this same reason. But an unmarked grave would be hard to avoid. You know, there's a lot of them around. Unmarked graves. And they've, y'all know about the Citadel? You know what a Citadel is in South Carolina? It's an Army military school. They found 40-some graves underneath the football stadium. 40-some unmarked graves, bodies. They found them at the stadium. And they don't know what to do with it. They're going to have to get them out and put them in a good spot. But it just come out, they just found that. Now that thing's been built forever. And they just found it out. You know, it's strange how we take care of the people after they pass. You know, some people just forget about them, just let the weeds grow up. And they just forget about it. It just kills me sometimes how people act. You know, the Pharisees' outward appearance of righteousness matched the reality that they were dead spiritually. Like an unmarked grave, the deadness of the Pharisees defied the people without the people knowing it. You know, the experts in the law were not without sin. Jesus revealed their sin by saying, For ye lad men with burdens grievous to be borne, and ye yourself touch not the burdens with one of your fingers. Their sin was the same as the Pharisees, but with an added twist. The experts found and developed loopholes for themselves that allowed them to touch not the burdens with one of their fingers. You know, we can mince words or speak in generalities, but it comes to point out sin. Too much is at stake. Jesus confronted the Pharisees with their sin, but he also pointed to the solution for their sin. They should have lived out and taught about love of God and justice towards others. Luke 12, 1 through 3. In the meantime, when they were gathered together, an unnumberable multitude of people, insomuch that they trod one upon another, he began to say unto his disciples first of all, Beware ye of the leaven of the Pharisees, which is hypocrisy. For there is nothing covered that shall not be revealed, neither hid that shall not be known. Therefore, whatsoever ye have spoken in darkness shall be heard in the light, and that which ye shall have spoken in the ear and closet shall be proclaimed upon the housetops. You know, Jesus warned his disciples, beware of the leaven of the Pharisees, which is hypocrisy. You know, hypocrisy is pretending to have virtues or convictions you don't actually possess. Spiritual hypocrisy is an outward appearance of righteousness that makes the sinful condition of the heart. Wow. See? Hypocrisy. You know, don't be a hypocrite. And we've been told a lot of times, sometimes a lot of people say, yeah, ain't nothing but a bunch of hypocrites go along with it. Why do I want to go out there with a bunch of hypocrites? Well, I'd rather come hang out with a few hypocrites along with it than go to hell with all of them. Think about it, y'all. People call us names. We are only a hypocrite. Well, first of all, you think you're better than anybody. That you put on, try to be something that you're not. You say you're saved, but you're not really saved. Being kind of hypocritical there. You know what I'm saying? You know, hypocrisy is fed by pride. We've heard the saying, do as I say, not as I do. We've heard that, ain't it? My daddy told me that. You better do as I say, not as I do. Man, that's a form of being a hypocrite. Think about it. The concept behind the saying is to exempt oneself from what others must do. You know, do as I say, don't do as I do. You do what I tell you to do. Hypocrisy can be driven by a desire for popularity. Think about that. Think about the hypocrites we got up there in Washington today. Ooh-wee. We could talk all day about that crowd. And they hypocrites. They talk on both sides of their mouth. They politicians. Let me tell you something. Our Jesus was not a politician. He wasn't a Republican. He was not a Democrat. And he didn't hang with the Pharisees and the Sadducees. He did. He was up there and he showed them where they went wrong. You know, the Pharisees didn't have the internet. But they understood the value of a good reputation and the influence it can have Their desire to be popular, which is in turn would give them more influence and power, made it necessary to put on the outward appearance of righteousness and piety. The more perfect they appeared to be, the more popular they would become. The more popular they became, the more benefits that would come their way. Let me stop just there for a minute and let's talk about one more thing. You're at work, okay? So I'm at work every telephone. I'll go back. I'll say it's me. I get my crew ready, and they give me a brand new man to go out there and work. Brand new. Well, how I always worked, it was a 3-man crew. The man that comes, the man that goes to number 2, he had to take care of the number 3 man. He had to teach them everything they had to do. And the new man was going to get close to the boss man. He'd do everything for the boss man. And then the boss man, he started liking that dude. And then